Hey everybody, Jason Shadrick here with PremierGuitar.com, and we have a special look. We're here with Steve Vai, and we are in his studio, in his backyard, the Harmony Hut, and he's going to walk us around and show us a few things and tell us a little bit about how this studio came to be and about your new album that was mostly recorded here. So how did this studio kind of come to fruition?
Well, I've always enjoyed working on my own, so I've always had studios, and I'm fascinated with studios. I just love the idea of recording and overdubbing and building and all that. So I've always, I could never understand going to a studio, and I could never afford it. Back in the 80s, it was like hundreds of dollars an hour, thousands of dollars a day, or whatever. So I always had my own, and otherwise I'd never be at home. So I always had home studios, and maybe this is my 6th or 7th studio. But I wanted to do it right. And first of all, the decor, I don't want it to look like a studio. So I went out and I got all this fabric, and I had all this stuff hand-built by a friend of mine to look more like a library, like a gentleman library. But it's very acoustically sound because all the walls are fabric, and there's foam behind them to absorb sound. So then that's the when you're sitting here and you're mixing, there's no standing waves, and it's a great room to mix in. But then you need gear, and I love gear. I'm like an equipment whore. And I love collecting old compressors and EQs and stuff like that. I actually usually don't collect vintage guitars. I'm not fascinated with. I love them, but I only use guitars that I use. I only collect guitars that I actually use. But with gear, and unfortunately this stuff is a lot more expensive than guitars. But I like it. Like these, these Pultec EQs. They're very old. They're very sought after, and they're probably about $7,000 or $8,000 each. But when I got them, years ago, they were cheaper, and the stuff goes up. But this is an EQ rack. Well, these are EQs, and this is a rack that's attached to the patch bay. These are mic pre's, API, which is my favorite, and these are called 500 series because of their size, and this is called a lunch pail because you can just take these various 500 series that people make and just kind of stuff them in there. Yeah. And over here are various racks of gear. This here is a really cool piece of gear. This Compex EQ and compressor. They're very old, hard to find, but very functional, friendly sounding. This is the compressor that was used on When the Levee Breaks. And this is a very nice old, not old, this is more like 80s, but this is the second one that Avalon ever made.
I got to ask, how did you come up with the compressor that was used on When the Levee Breaks? How'd you get a hold of that?
Well, let me clarify. Okay. This is the brand. This is the kind. It's not the one.
Okay.
I should have clarified that. But then again, I was hoping it'd get by. This is the one that was used on Sgt. Pepper's. I'm kidding. This is effects processors. The 3000, Eventide 3000, 4000. And these are really cool analog choruses because plug-in choruses don't make it for me. And then I've got, I'm going to look under the skirt. This is the X-rated part of the video. These are really great compressors, Teltronics. And these are these great AMS reverbs and harmonizers. These are very old, and they have a sound that you just can't get anyplace else. This is that snare sound, that non-linear kind of snare sound that so many people like to use, and everybody tries to mimic it, but this is the device.
It's a real thing.
Yeah.
With all these racks and stuff, how often are you swapping things in and out when you come across something new?
I'm always looking for cool gear, like these compressors here, LA3As, LA2As, and that kind of thing, 1176. They're always kind of coming on the market, and you got to keep an eye out for them. And I kind of trade gear sometimes, or my engineer is always looking for this kind of stuff for me. And I used to have more, but I don't really use it, so I don't really keep it.
Right, right.
I've learned how to clear clutter for clarity. I started to have custom gear built because then it functions the way you really want it to. And but Steve Furlot from Inward Connections builds this stuff, and this is probably one of the cleanest stereo mastering EQ I've ever used, and I use this on everything when I mix. And he built me these really great. This is his vac rack tube limiter, which in itself is hard to, tube limiters are have a particular analog type of a sound. They're very different than like brick walls and digital limiters. And I really prefer the sound of that stuff. And these are like summing mixers that he hand built for me. So when you come out of Pro Tools or your digital workstation, you get this very clean kind of separation of tracks that then you can bust down to stereo. So I went through a couple of consoles. I've had a lot of consoles. My favorite console was an API, and I still have an API at the mothership. So I bought a console not too long ago, and it was the Neve 5088, because it was supposed to be it is a discrete Class A console. But I didn't like the way it sounded.
What didn't you like about it?
Well, to be perfectly honest, it wasn't what I was expecting. I did this vast comparison with mic pre's, and I tried all these mic pre's, the APIs, these Steve Furlot ones, the Brent Averill, old Neves, some of the Shadow Hills kinds of stuff. Probably about 12 different mic pre's, and one of them was the newer AMS Neves, and another was the 5088 console. And for my ear, and some of it was very obvious, the API was superior. And then these Furlot design, and then there's a kind of tie, for me, the Brent Averill. And the least favorite for me was the new Neve AMS type, which are, knockoffs of their older 1073s and 1088s. But the second worst was the 5088 console. It just wasn't my thing, So I got rid of that console, and I started thinking, well, what do I really want? Because, like, for instance, when I built my guitar, the Gem, there was things in Strats and Les Pauls and all these other kinds of guitars that I liked, but there was so many things that just weren't suited to where my playing was heading. So I thought, well, let me just build a guitar that fits my idiosyncrasies, and that's when the Gem was born. So I thought, well, let me take the same approach to a console. So I really like this 500 series concept. So I built this console. Actually, Tree Audio built this console, which is Steve Furlot and Ian Gardner. And all of this rack here is 2 rows of 500 series for the first 16 channel. So you can pull these modules out and put all these different ones in, different brands. There's all sorts of different ones on the market. I have a lot of Steve Furlots in here because he makes such great stuff. And this here is his compressors. This is limiters. This is a really great Shadow Hills compressor. I like this a lot. It's a stereo compressor. Old API, and then these are all EQs. But you can put anything you want in here.
So you're not locked in down the road if you hear something you really dig.
Yeah, there's no consoles that I know that do that. And then over here, this side of the console, these 16 channels are sized for the more conventional sized Neve modules. And so you can pull these out and put in any module that fits. And then these here, Steve Furlot built these for me. They're absolutely amazing, these channel strips. They have 4-band EQs with very serious Qs on them. So you can really notch filter things, and then it all comes to the patch bay. And one of the things that I designed into this console that I really like, well, it's got 4 aux sends and 8 groups. But, when you're sitting down and you're mixing, you've got a listening window that's very small that you can hear, it's right about here, and you can hear the way things sound. But if you go like this, your axis is off, and if you go like this, it's off, and if you back up too far, you get this phasing, you know what I mean? So you really got to be right in the... And when you're mixing, the thing you're going for most is the EQ. And every console has the EQ up here, you know, and the channel strip down here. And I couldn't understand why. And I said, this doesn't make sense. I want to be able to EQ stuff while I'm sitting like this, you know.
In the window.
In the window.
Yeah.
And I started asking all these companies and all these people, and they're like, well, we don't know. That's just the way it's always been done. And that's my first cue to change it, you know. So this is just really great the way it is, because now you've got everything right here. And, I mean, if you got to reach, you're reaching for something that, like your pan. What difference is it going to, you know what I mean? So that was big. Then the speakers I use, I've always been used to NS10s. It's just the way I grew up, you know, and I like sticking with them for checking certain frequencies and sounds. But my friend is Alan Sides, and he has this speaker line, the Ocean Way monitor system, and these speakers are just to die for. I mean,
These two real big ones behind the thing here.
This is his lowest, his smallest model, you know, and they're like $60,000 or something. But you know, he has speaker systems that go up to like $500,000. And when you listen to these things, it's like you're in the sound. You know, if I sit here and I'm listening, the separation is phenomenal. The phasing, there's no phasing, and that like the, you know, it sounds like the sound if you pan it to the middle. It's right there. It's like you can reach it. You know, you get into the sound, and it's very honest. You know, the bass response is just tremendous. You know, it rocks your world.
I would think with speakers that size, you're gonna definitely feel it a lot more.
You feel it all right. So the matter of fact, sometimes if people are good, I let them sit on the speakers while I put my octave divider on. You know what I'm saying? They have to clean up the mess. Anyway, so this is where I work, and this is you know, the computer, and I use Pro Tools, and I load everything into here and record. And a lot of times I sit here and I've got all this room for stomp boxes and whatnot. And this is really a wonderful piece, this radial, because it's a splitter box. And so many times I've tried to find splitter boxes that don't load down the signal or change the quality of the amplifier signals. And this is the best I've found so far.
Kind of like the ultimate man cave here to do all your work, and you can come out here at 2 in the morning when something strikes, and you know, and that's it.
And I got a little meditation room up there.
Oh man, cool.
It's very comfortable.
And I'm sure you've read all these books.
Only the ones on Tom Waits.
Cool. All right, Steve. Thanks a lot for showing us around your studio.
Okay, thanks a lot, man.
This is Jason Shadrick with PremierGuitar.com.